plants that we bought from Home Depot. I'll show you a few of them.
You want to bring that? Huh?
Yeah. That. I'm going to some of the pots are very big. This pot is very big because I'm gonna do cantaloupe in there. And it is, again, a self-watering pot. Maybe if some of you were on before, I was talking about the benefits of using a self-watering pot. And especially if you're starting off and don't have a big garden or a lot of space, you can grow lots of things in self-watering pots because they come in many different sizes. She has a tomato over here. That's why I need you behind me looking at it. And so we have a tomato over here so that if you only have a limited space, you could easily still, grow tomatoes. And this is an heirloom red beefsteak tomato so that we can keep those seeds. So when those tomatoes are ripe and everything, it will be useful to keep those seeds because they will produce and produce and produce for us. So I'm gonna start with this big pot. I like to put rocks in the bottom. Here is some red lava rocks. Sometimes I use the white lava rocks, just whatever is available, and the different sizes. But the reason I'm using lava rocks in the bottom of my self-watering pot is because they add extra trace minerals, extra nutrients. And this rock is different from sedimentary rock in that it absorbs water. It absorbs about 30% water, and it's porous. The rocks itself is very porous, and it brings the water up, holds it there, and moistens the soil to what's needed. It doesn't give the soil too much water, and it doesn't allow it to dry out. So a self-watering pot has, little holes down here, and that's where I put my rocks. And this whole bag was about $6 at Home Depot, at our local Home Depot, but they are usually inexpensive. And I have done many of her pots with this one bag so far. I'll give you a little tour on her patio and show you what has been able to be done. Usually just a small layer of rock is fine. And then I'll put some soil. I'm still putting some more rocks. And again, we just got a local organic compost soil. This too, for this whole size, was under $6. Thank you. Can you put the rest of the rocks over here? So I'm just gonna put lots of soil in here. And for a pot like this, I would put plants that require lots of space. Tomato plants, watermelons, cucumbers, that would like to grow upward. It would be no need to put lettuce in such a large pot because they don't need that much soil. So lettuce could go in very, very shallow pots. I'm just gonna put lots of soil in here. I think I could hold it. Thank you. I'm also gonna show you what I will do for pots that are not self-watering. And she happens to have things around her home that are not even flower pots, but we're gonna use them to grow food. And so they don't even have holes in the bottom. And I'll show you the best way to make good success of those pots when it comes to food. Alrighty, so here are my heirloom cantaloupe. Another thing I'm gonna do with this is label this whole pot. And I'll just put a sticky note on there that this is heirloom and that I want to keep these seeds because,
Denise,
yes,
ask Dr. Salas to tip the camera a little lower so we can see the pot itself.
okay, you gotta tip it lower. Okay, is that better?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, great. I'm gonna probably just nail beside it. So, you know, I am gonna put this tag in there, but this tag could, you know, get destroyed. So I'm gonna put a sticky label on this pot, reminding me that this is heirloom. So I'm gonna wanna, you know, be very careful with how I grow in here. And I am gonna be able to keep those seeds for the future. Heirloom means that these seeds have been kept for many generations, at least 100 years. So this cantaloupe has been being kept down the line for at least 100 years. So the nutrition in this is just gonna be really good. And this is three little cantaloupes. So I'll make 3 spots in here. And put 1 each. Very carefully. And I'm transplanting in the cool of the day, lots of shade. We brought these home a few days ago and was watering them. We had them outside so that they could get used to, acclimated. How about you go to your garden? You can take him down there. He has a garden down there. Yes. Go to yours down there. Go to yours down there, please. And we just want to bring the soil around there. That it's nice and, you know, firm. If some people saw me talking about sprouts, I'm going to show you today how I fertilize with the sprouts, because you can use sprouts in a fresh salad. You can use sprouts on sandwiches, but another great thing to do with sprouts is fertilize your plants. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. I have some of the sprouts that are very mature now, and I'll show you how I make fertilizer, one of the best fertilizers that I can think of. It's something that I learned from Brother Ian Jones. He was a great gardener. He passed away now, but he did, you know, start using sprouts for his fertilizer. So I do have other things here already, and I will show you how I fertilize that. But what I'm gonna do with this right now is just mulch around it, and water. Yes, mulch. Again, the reason I do mulch is to hold the moisture in at the top. The self-watering plants potters are nice because it will suck up the water from the bottom hole here. And that really gives nice root strength. But I still want to protect the topsoil from drying out in the heat of the day, and mulching around the plants really help with that greatly. And these are cantaloupes. Cantaloupes usually like to run along the ground, but I'm going to train these to grow upward by adding stakes. The same way you would stake up a tomato plant, you can do that with cucumbers. Quite a few of your things that like to grow along the ground. If you don't have that space, you can train them to grow up. And this is just what this particular family needed. But for your situation, you can start, with peppers, things that don't really need to grow up or out. Start with, growing bell peppers, because success is what you want to achieve. And then you'll just be encouraged to try more and more as you gain experience. So it's no need to try to start off with growing potatoes, in a bucket. Don't let that be your first attempt. But after you've had good success with growing things in pots, indoors, then you can venture off with the bigger things, the harder things. But something this size would not even be considered lower. Something this size would not be considered too big for tomatoes. So I'm going to not bring out the hose yet, because I'm going to do other pots, and then I'll just water everything at one time. I have other just regular flower pots. They're not self-watering, but I'll show you how I can use that to give the pots the best possible chance of success. These are regular flower pots. They have a lip down here, and it may resemble a self-watering pot, but the difference is this is just to catch excess water. If you're watering and you might have this on a countertop or something, and you don't want that excess water to just run off on your countertop, that's why you have this little dish here to catch that little extra water. But there's really no place to put the water in to feed your soil up here, and it's very shallow. It's really no place to really be a reservoir, and it's also built differently. In here is practically flat as well. There's no little deeper sockets to go into the reservoir to suck up that water. So that's the difference with this. Now I'm going to still add the lava rock, and I'm going to do something additional here to make this kind of self-watering, because in a container, the two greatest reasons for failure and for your plants dying is too much water or too little water. So I still want to try my best to prevent those things, because we may need to be growing our food for something more than hobby. If it was just hobby, or if it was just flowers in here, maybe we wouldn't have to take the extra steps. But it may be not too far from now that we really have to grow food in here that we really need to eat. So I'm going to just show you a few extra things that we can do to really make the plants survive and thrive. Again, it's the lava rocks. Yep, let's see if we can get lower. I don't know. Maybe if we could. Okay. Back. Perfect. Okay, so you won't see me, but you know, it's kind of, this is what you want to see. And so again, you know, just a little layer of lava rock at the bottom. And when it comes to the lava rocks, you can put as much as you like. If you want a nice deep reservoir, if you would like a reservoir of water this deep, then that's how much rocks you will put in. But I really only have the rocks up to here because I am available to check on the pots daily. If the reason for a deep reservoir would be if you travel a lot, are away on weekends, are usually gone for 2 or 3 days or something like that, and you really can't come check on your pots or add water as often as that food may need. So with situations like that, you would want to have a nice deep reservoir of water so that you could go away or leave it unattended and know that everything is being taken care of. But I, you know, just have my pots generally on a front porch or something like that. If some of you will be starting off with pots, maybe in a, you know, in a kitchen or something like that, that you are able to check on it often, it's no need to really make a deep area that water will be in. You know, if I just use a little bit of rocks, then my rocks go further. I could use much more buckets or containers. So far, it looks like the same thing I've been doing with everything else, except this time, I will add, this is an old cotton face rag that our friend, you know, she just bought a whole new set of stuff, and these are going to be replaced anyway. I'm going to now put that in here to separate the water at the bottom from the soil at the top. And I'm going to create my own, it's kind of like a siphon, if I'm using the right word, and it's going to bring the water from under there up to the soil. And I'm going to do that like this. Cut a strip. Well, I guess this is as easy as my fabric is, so I'll have to cut the whole thing. And down here, where my rocks are, is where my water is going to be. And that's where I want this strip to be. Let's see if my camera can realize what I'm doing. Okay, so you see that strip that I cut? Most of it is under the rocks. So what I'm gonna do with the rest of it, yeah, this is the same one that I cut. I'm going to cover these rocks. I still have this strip up here, and I'm now gonna put the soil on top of this barrier. So I have separated my soil from my rocks with this technique. Using this technique, I'm separating my soil from my rocks. All righty. Okay. Now that I have you know, some soil, I'm going to lay this down. And this is now what will bring my water from the rocks up to here. And this is what is going to keep all of my soil evenly wet, evenly moist. It's not going to make it too wet. Neither is it going to dry out. And I'm going to put in this pot a bok choy. And it's looking really good.
Lift it up.
This is the bok choy.
Lift it up.
I'll bring it in. And then I continue to fill it in with soil.
Clear.
Now, this bok choy is also, you know, so nice and wide that I probably don't have to mulch too much because the leaves will be big enough very soon to provide shade and hold that moisture in. But just because I have it available, I'm going to go ahead and just, you know, put a little mulch around. And again, this mulch is just straw. You don't want to use hay because hay will have seeds. So you don't want to use hay at all, but you can use straw even if you ever get the opportunity to garden in the ground. You can also mulch around your pot plants with straw, but you never want to use hay because you will be introducing more weeds. So that you don't want to do. I'll show you how I'll water those in just a little bit. I want to get to another pot that's not even a flower pot. It's just a Dollar Tree bucket. Let me show you that. This family wanted me to use two simple things that they had around. This is just a Dollar Tree bucket that one of their children used to play with, like in a sandbox, and no longer needs it or anything. So it doesn't have any holes at the bottom. It doesn't have any drainage, just nothing at all. Some people could easily, you know, provide drainage and just let this be a regular flower pot that drains. But again, I really like to try my best to make them self-watering because, again, it really lowers the possibility of overwatering or underwatering, which is the two easiest things to kill your plants. So even in this, I am going to add that lava rock whenever possible. If that's not possible, there was a family member in New York years ago. We went outside and collected rocks because I was just there, and everywhere I go, I like to grow something. And so it wasn't anything planned. I walked by and saw a peppermint plant, so I bought it, and I went into her house, and she had a pretty glass vase that she wanted to use. And so I went outside and got rocks from the neighborhood. But those are not porous. So those will not hold your water, bring it up when it's needed. No, that just to kind of provide drainage. It would work just the regular way that a regular flower pot that has holes at the bottom will. But because it was just a peppermint plant and it was just for fun, and it's very hard to kill peppermint plants, that's what we use the rocks from the neighborhood. But in here, we want to put that lava rock just because it's going to provide nutrition. It's going to provide the moisture. And I'm going to use, this is again, just a wash towel that she's not going to use anymore because she's replacing them. And this is so wide that we could use this for 2 different pots. So I'm just going to cut this into 2. And here's my strip that will, yeah, that's good enough. I should have put it under the rocks first, but okay, that's my strip again that is at the bottom of the rock where the water will be. And then I have some sticking out here because I'm going to put that on top of or in the middle of my soil section. I cut this. This is cotton. I cut this because I want to separate the soil from the rock. And the reason I want to do that is just so that I will have as much water down there and not, the soil taking up the space. There will actually be water down there among my rocks. This is about empty. As best we can, when we buy plants, okay, and my first choice in buying plants is buying plants that are heirloom, because those seeds are just sturdy, strong. That variety has been around for at least 100 years. That's what heirloom means. And more than likely, you are going to have success in keeping the seeds and growing them another season when you need them again in the future. Okay, so here I've added some soil. And that strip that I kept up there, I'll just lay it down into the soil and continue to cover it. And something like this could easily grow green onions, you know, scallions, your herbs, your peppermint, your basil, oregano, sage, thyme, anything like that would do very well in a pot like this. So then I'll go back again so we can see. So I think I'm gonna put cilantro and basil in this. Lay that back. Wonderful, thank you. And so what I am gonna put in here is cilantro and back. No. Yeah, so I'm gonna put cilantro and basil in here. Like I said, the first choice would be heirloom. And the second choice would be at least organic. And if I don't really, you know, if the companies are just not labeling that, sometimes it's only because they are not certified, but their food is organic. Their seeds and their plants are organic. It just may be that they're not certified. My third choice would be Bonnie. This company, I've had a friend actually call this company Bonnie, BONNIE. You know, I have a friend that has worked with them, and she trusts them, said they do not use GMO at all. So their plants, she, you know, feels safe with, and they're healthy, and so they should be able to have fertilized seeds. You know, these plants should have seeds that will grow for you year after year. So that's Bonnie's. I'm just gonna put, there was 2 basils in there. I'm just separating them. And adding more soil around them. And then we're gonna get to watering.
Then look some kind of tube. Look some kind of tube.
Here's the water hose. And I think I'm gonna mulch this also, but in no time, this would, when I say in no time, let me give specifics, maybe in about 2 weeks, you know, this would be so filled in that, you know, with leaves that this soil would not be exposed anyhow. So we wouldn't have to worry about evaporation and the soil drying out from the top. Oh, there's water with the sprayer.
Mm-hmm.
You can find the sprayer for me, so I put the water on and off as I need it. That'll be helpful.
Anna spoon in the square.
The nozzle. I know. Glass. Okay. I mentioned fertilizer. I think while I am waiting for the nozzle and things for this water hose, I'll go ahead and show you what I use for a bug repellent, like a pesticide or something, because that's one of the big things that the commercial farmers struggle with, and that's one of the main reasons that they use so much chemicals, is because it's very hard for them to fight, you know, bugs and insects. So they use chemicals and, you know, to be pesticides and insecticides that are very harmful to our bodies after long-term exposure. So what I use is something as simple as cayenne pepper and water. Can I have that cayenne pepper? Our cayenne pepper is medicinal. How many heat units?
160.
160 heat units. I think in the grocery store, you're probably
30.
gonna get like 30 heat units. So if you can get this, you know, at the health food store, you know, get cayenne pepper from a health food store, that would be stronger and more effective. You can also get cayenne pepper tincture. That's at the health food stores too, and that's also very effective. Much stronger heat units than the ones at the grocery store that's, you know, just for seasoning. So I would put, I would say the equivalent of probably a half a teaspoon. This is just a little tiny thing. It's probably an eighth of a teaspoon or so. But I would say a half a teaspoon to about a cup of water in a simple spray bottle. And usually if I see any aphids, they're little tiny bugs, usually green, pretty color. And then I would spray that directly on my plants. Okay, let me do the tomato plants. If you can see, I would just spray that. Just a few sprays directly on my plants. When you get an opportunity to move into the country, a lot of people have big problems with deers, because the deers like good food as well. And you might not be able to start off with, you know, tall fencing or something. I had a friend that would sprinkle cayenne pepper around her plants, and it really did keep the deers away. Another friend was living in a subdivision in Georgia, and she actually had neighborhood dogs and cats peeing on her food that she needed to eat. And so she used cayenne pepper. She would come out and just, with this, sprinkle cayenne pepper around, and it really did the trick. So those are just, you know, pointers. Now I'm gonna start watering.
I have a question, Miss Denise.
Yes.
I guess you can use that also for the squirrels.
Oh, yes. The cayenne pepper, I probably wouldn't even need to, you know, wet it and spray it on, because it doesn't hurt the plant, and, you know, it keeps them away. So I'm actually using a watering can, and these are things that were planted before. These are cucumbers in this longer one, and again, this reservoir, I'm just pouring water everywhere. Okay, this reservoir is, boy, about 4 inches.
Unnecessary water.
Yes, this is a self-watering
Pot.
pot. This family is their first time. And let me see if I could just water down there. Okay, that works too. I mean, it really takes a lot because I filled this up once or twice already before, you know, we had even started this. And then I decided, wait, I want them to see how it's done. So, yeah. So, I don't know. What do you think? This is a gallon? Yes,
Yeah.
this is 1 gallon. So I would say so far in my reservoir, I have 3 gallons of water. I could also water from the top a little bit just because these are new plants and it's okay if they got a little extra from the top.
What's the
But-
what's the advantage of using a self-watering pot?
The main thing is that you can't overwater or underwater. You can underwater actually. I mean, if you absolutely walk away from this and don't pay any attention for 1 or 2 weeks, depending on your weather, the sun will come and evaporate the water out of here, and the plant will use up what it needs. So if this goes bone dry, then your plants are still absolutely not getting any water. So you can underwater, but it's just a little harder to do that. And you can't overwater because once this reservoir gets full, it'll spill out, you know, but I don't even usually need to take it to the top. So that's that one. And this is, but just because I know how much water something like this takes, I can know how much it would take to fill this reservoir. But if you were just at home and didn't have a hose, you could easily fill this hole with most watering cans. So you would just get the water from your tap and you could put it right in there. And after like at least a month, you should really be able to know that plant and its habits. This is the cantaloupe. Cantaloupes like lots of water, but because I just put this in here, I want to give it some water. And I like to wet my mulch down so that it doesn't fly away because it's so light. But even at home, even if you only have, you know, cups or jars to fill your, to pour in here, you can just pour it from in here and watch it go down here. You know, I could just, if this was a bowl or a pitcher, a mug or whatever, I would just pour it in here and give it time to trickle down. And then I would watch and see how much water is in there. And I would give it time because remember, it's coming through all this soil. It's coming through the rocks. So I set that in there and I'm just gonna watch if it makes its way down here and how far it goes. You know, the hole, you know, it's gonna go down here. When it makes its way into here, the reservoir, I'll watch that level to see if I need to add more water or let it be. Now, this is my pot that I invented from the Dollar Tree, bucket. And so this one doesn't, have any way of telling me when the water gets down to the rocks. So again, if I was doing this with just a pitcher of water, I would know, okay, well, maybe a pitcher of water is enough, depending on what. I would start with maybe a quart. Another way that you can really check is by letting the water go down there, let it settle, and then come back in a little while and make a space and see how far down it's still wet. But this basil smells good. Oh, I like Bonnie's plants. Yes, yes indeed. This was my regular flower plant. This one does have the plate at the bottom that will let me know when I've added enough water.
Flower pot.
My regular flower pot. And I'm turning it because I like to wet all of the mulch down. I like the mulch wet so that it's heavy. And I'm gonna come back and check on these. Give them time to work their way down. Let's see how it's going. This is great. These are my peppers that were transplanted, a few days ago. They're looking really good. They're standing up. They handled being transplanted very well. My reservoir, I didn't put a lot of water in here at the time because I wanted to, save that to show you guys today. But because I want to also fertilize these, I'm going to leave some space down there. And I am going to fertilize these from the top. When I say fertilize them, I mean with my sprout blend. That's the fertilizer I use. Okay, so we're gonna go inside.
Yeah.
Is the blender ready?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay. So we're gonna go inside because in order to make my fertilizer, I use the blender and sprouts and water. That's the only things. So yeah, you can take this.
Okay.
I see my brother.
Stop video.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go in and
No, you can't see her. And
Yeah, we just stopped the video while we're moving the camera to the kitchen.
okay, but you can hear us, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You did, babe. What are you doing? You're the one. Give me the one too. No, you don't. I go pee. Okay.
Okay, so I'm not seeing the blender. Okay.
That's not easy.
Okay, good. So, check these. For those of you that had joined me a few days ago, yeah, when I was outside, because of the sun, I really couldn't see who was on the camera. So those that I can see and their cameras is on, I like to say welcome, and all the mothers that are on there, happy Mother's Day, and I'm so glad to see you. And I see, some mothers and their husbands too, so happy day. Okay, so those that had joined a few days ago, and I showed how to make sprouts. Now I'm gonna show you a few things that I do with those sprouts, other than, having sprouts for sandwiches. And the reason I was talking about sprouts before, and I hope that we are doing this technology correctly. That video is supposed to be recorded and should be available on Zoom. But, one of the benefits of sprouts, it's fresh produce that is ready in 3 to 5 days. The things that I put outside today, I showed you the cantaloupe, I showed you tomatoes that are out there, We have bok choy. Bok choy is ready now as well. But some of those things, the tomatoes, we're not going to be eating those for another month or two. Some things 3 months for maturity. But sprouts, you can set them out today. Today is Sunday. They will be edible by Wednesday. And that's high nutrition. So if ever we, have to start depending on what we grow, that is something that we can have available to us quickly. So let me show you what I'm going to do with my sprouts. Okay. If you remember, those of you that have been with me, a few days ago, I was growing the sprouts in this, what was it called? Oh, it's a kitchen crock sprouter. Oh, no, I like the actual name. It's not shown on this. But I was growing the sprouts in this. When it's ready in here, I transfer it to my cup. This is a sprouter too. And there it is. That's because I've been eating off of it for a few days, but it was full. And this is easy to stick in the refrigerator. But what I'm gonna do with it today is put about a handful of it in my Vitamix with about a cup of water and show you how I fertilize those pots outside. Okay, I'm just washing my hands over here. Has anybody been able to look into getting sprouting seeds or getting sprouters?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Actually, Sister Denise, I was trying to sprout some lentils in my,
okay.
I have a picture of it here in my plastic strainer.
Okay,
Oh,
very good.
Oh, here it is. Doctor, but tell me something, how long?
That looks,
yeah.
that looks
How long do I keep it for?
Oh, that is nice.
That looks really good. It is ready. Once you see those little, white poking out, you can now put that in a quart jar and put it in the fridge with a lid and have some off of it on a sandwich or on the side of a salad day by day, meal by meal. Or you could, cook that and make lentils and rice, whatever you like. Yes, you can start enjoying those already. Yes, indeed.
Okay.
That is beautiful. And that was very creative. Yes, lentils will sprout in, in a strainer. She's just using a strainer with things that you have in your home. So anyway, this is just a few forks full of sprouts. This is alfalfa sprouts. Alfalfa sprouts is very nutritious. It's what keeps horses big and strong. And I'm going to use about a cup of water in there. And this will work in any blender. Let's see. But I like to, some watering cans have the little holes in it. So that's why I want to blend this very thoroughly, because if you have seeds and, pieces left that wasn't blended as thoroughly, then it'll clog up, your watering can. But my watering can that I'm using today is just a big open hole, so I don't have to worry. Now this is very powerful fertilizer, so we are going to have to dilute it. We're not, with 1 cup, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it up so they'll just do it real quick. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna take that outside, put that in my watering can with more water and show you how I fertilize the plants. But seeing that I'm inside, I'm going to go ahead and show you what else I can do with sprouts. Let's see. You have some Ezekiel?
Yeah.
It's fried bread.
I have it.
Mhm.
Here.
Okay. Okay. How many of you know this? Ezekiel 4:9 bread? Well, that's some really good whole grain bread that is baked with sprouted grains. So when you do sprouts, like I said, you can still cook like this, like you want. You can still cook your lentils because it still makes the nutrition in the lentils so much higher when you sprout them than when they were just dry. And it also makes it so much easier for our body to assimilate and absorb. So this company, Ezekiel 4:9, they bake their bread with all sprouted grains. And this is a raisin bread, but there's other kinds. There's like sesame seeds and whatever. It's also extremely filling. So it's one of the things we could do with sprouts. Throw some hummus on there. This is from the company Hope. It's good stuff. Have you seen this in New York at all, like Perilandra or?
I don't remember.
Okay, Whole Foods, I'm not exactly sure. Out here we have Natural Grocers, but if you can find this organic hummus, delicious. They make many kinds of curry, and this is a black beans and garlic, you know, just get creative. There's also Veggie-Nays. You want to grab that for me? Some organic red tomatoes and cukes. I don't know if you know this product. It's called Veggie-Nays. It's an alternative to mayo. It's soy-free. It's very tasty. And wonderful for sandwiches. So, oh yes, and I also have a live audience here that's going to be my taster and see if I did those sprouts very well. I had a fork in my, oh, here it is. So with some tomatoes. And this sandwich is going to be so much more delicious in about June and July when these tomatoes are from the garden and the cucumbers are from the garden. I mean, the sandwich is going to be so much more delicious. But for today, you know, we got the organic from the grocery store, and we have alfalfa sprouts on those. I'm going to leave that off. And here we also have, if you remember, those of you that were with me last week, we were growing broccoli sprouts, radish sprouts, and those are all ready. That's some good stuff. Boy, you guys know, you should be eating your broccoli, but boy, if you eat your broccoli sprouts, so much more nutritious.
Like the knives over there to cut.
And so a volunteer from my live audience is going to taste that for you and let us know. Here you go. And so I'm going to, in the meanwhile, can you bring my watering can in for me? Okay, so that's some of the things you do with the sprouts. How is it? Oh, she's still chilling.
That's good to eat.
Okay. You taste the nutrition in those sprouts?
Delicious, very vegetable.
Oh, very vegetable-y is what she said. Okay. In a good way? Okay. So it's not hard to eat sprouts? Okay, and this is actually her very first time having broccoli sprouts, radish sprouts. This is her first time, her first experience. So your taste buds didn't need any adapting, and it just tastes good.
Very tasty.
Okay, I'm so glad to hear that. Your first experience with sprouts is a good one. I'm so glad. Okay, so here's my watering can from outside. I'm gonna add some of this. And then go the rest of the way with tap water, because this is so powerful that we do not want to oversupply our little baby plants. And so what I've done in the past, I would not add more sprout blend. I would just do this more often. Tomato plants really like a lot of fertilizing, so I would start off with maybe once every 2 weeks, and as the plant gets bigger and starts putting on fruit and everything, I would do this maybe once a week. Okay. So there we have it. And I'm going to now go back to my pots outside and just add some of this to each pot. So this is a whole gallon, and this is just so powerful and so nutrient dense that we don't want to feed any plant this whole thing ever. So this gallon is going to supply probably all of those pots that I have out there. Okay, we'll go again. Honey, are you recording this? Just put on the thing? Or did you forget that part?
No, there's not enough room
Oh.
to buy more space.
Oh.
Yes, I'm recording it.
Oh,
Okay,
perfect.
wonderful.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so here we are again, and I'm gonna put a little at the top. What I have in here is kale and spinach. Right here. Yeah. This is one of my helpers from my live audience.
Let's watch one here.
He's an up and coming farmer. And my pepper. Just giving each of them just a little.
You okay?
Let me check. Okay. So remember I was explaining that we pour the water through here and it takes time to trickle down and fill my reservoir. So this is all the water that this needs because my reservoir is full down here. Probably pour out a little. Because this is my heirloom cucumber. There we go. My bok choy. Okay. We're going to, let's see how these are doing. Okay, this has nice water down there. These are some self-watering pots that my friend started, and she already has the stakes in here. I'm gonna add some more soil. Now, when transplanting tomatoes, she had did these herself. Let's see, I think this bag is in it. Yeah, okay, great. When transplanting tomatoes, you can pinch off the bottom leaves, and I am going to do that on this plant because I'm going to put more soil up there, and that will make new root systems. So I'm going to pinch off her bottom leaf on these two little plants. Hold on. And I'm going to add more soil. And at the places where I just pinched off those bottom leaves, that's going to turn into a nice strong root. All right. Okay, much better. And I'm also going to mulch this up because tomatoes like a lot of water. So I don't want the sun. Her porch gets a lot of sun during the day. I don't want the sun coming out here and just absorbing all of this top water. This is great. Trying to get past him. And I'm going to give this plant a little fertilizer. And a lot of people use cow manure for fertilizer. You can use chicken manure, you know, cow manure, horse manure. But if you don't have any of those available, or even if you do, this fertilizer is really just so much better. At least that's been my experience. I have grown as little as 3 tomato plants. At one time I had only 3 tomato plants. And I used to pick in from those plants an average of about 30 tomatoes per day. And that's excellent when you need to can the tomatoes. So we had enough tomatoes from 3 tomato plants to eat daily and can and share and everything. And at the time I was fertilizing those tomato plants with the sprout blend. I don't think I've ever done too much fertilizing with manure, but I definitely have friends that fertilize with manure too. They're greenhouses and they just have excellent plants as well. Okay, let me check how my water supply at the bottom is doing. That needs more water, but I'm gonna just put fresh water down there instead of my fertilizer water. And this here is actually a grapevine. This is actually a grapevine that, I think is too tight around here. So I'm gonna free that, okay. She just transplanted it the way that it was bought, which is fine, but it's getting too tight around here. So, this grapevine, let me check the water down here. Yes, her water down there is very good. I'm gonna give it some more soil, mulch it up, and fertilize it. And what you wanna do with, you know, planting, you want to see what grows in your area, because this is a grapevine, but these grapes is from this area. I once, you know, had a friend bring me seeds from overseas, and they wouldn't grow where I lived. That's because that particular seed had grown in, the place was Belize. It grew in Belize for years, but Belize sunsets about 6 p.m. year round. And where I live, sunset in the warm months, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And the sun is up and bright, this bright at 5 o'clock in the morning. So those plants did not like that. They were exhausted when they were ready. All their generations of that plant was ready to be dormant by 6 p.m. Here, what time is it for us? It's already 4:20 for us, and the sun is high in the sky. So yeah, we have at least 4 more hours before sunset. So you want to get plants that like your area. So grapes will grow anywhere, but you have to know what type of grapes. Grapes will grow in Brooklyn, New York. Here he is. I'm gonna mulch this up now. Some plants that do well in pots is like bush beans or snap peas. They do very well. I'm gonna show you some strawberries that we have going here. And we're gonna let the strawberries grow this year in the pots. After the end of the summer, when they're all finished giving fruits for the whole summer, then we're gonna separate the plants and make a lot more strawberry plants out of that one pot. So, oh, they turned off my water? Yeah, I think they did. Okay. Okay, so that's my grape. Yes. That's my grapevine. And maybe I'll take pictures of it throughout the summer and just, show you how it's going along if I can. Here, thank you. Now the top of this, I'm just gonna wet down with regular water instead of fertilizer, water. And again, this is just to wet down the mulch so that the mulch is not too light and blowing away in the breeze. And I will try to turn the camera over there, or maybe I'll bring the strawberry plants over here. Okay. This is strawberries growing in this pot, and this is how it was bought. And I just absolutely left it this way because it is having a lot of fruit on it already. And this is a hula strawberry plant that the strawberries actually stay white and they taste like pineapples. So I don't want to take any chances of damaging this plant because it's going to come back for me year after year. This is perennial. If I take care of it, it will just do wonders for me year after year. So seeing that it already started making fruit, I said, let me just leave it in here. It's comfortable, it likes its home. If I transplant it, it might take a while. But if it was in the ground, so next year, I'll probably put it in the ground or separate all the plants out. But all of these would be, you know, starting new plants. So if I had this in the ground, it would make me a lot more strawberries, even this year. Let's see, this is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is already broken up into 5 strawberry plants. So when I separate this out, I'm gonna, you know, have lots of strawberries. So maybe at the end of the summer, after it's been giving fruit the whole time, I will show you how I'll separate this and make this and put them in 5 different pots, just so that they can go dormant. And then when the spring comes again, maybe put them in the ground or put them in something self-watering and go from there. So thank you. I really hope that was helpful. I'm gonna take questions if anybody have questions for me, but Andrew is in the kitchen getting ready to show you guys how to make a sliceable cheese. Well, it's not really cheese, it's dairy free, but it's delicious, and you can use it the same way you would use cheese on sandwiches or something like that. But if anybody has questions, I'll take them about what I was doing here or sprouting. Yes.
How regular do we use the sprouting fertilizer to fertilize the plants?
Okay, I would do that maybe once every 2 weeks for these little babies. And then as the plant gets bigger and needs more, once a week, especially on tomatoes. Yes.
Okay. And also, can you like start your garden with just seeds, or you need the seedlings?
You can definitely start with seeds, and I'll probably be starting some seeds. So I'll zoom that because I know my season in my, you know, my area. So I know it's not too late. So I will be starting seeds, and I'll show you how I do that. Probably this week in Zoom. Okay. So Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. Tuesday. Yeah. And then but it's easier to start with plants. I mean, with, you know, actual plants. This, you know, they chose to start with plants because then they should have started these seeds at least 5-6 weeks ago.
Right. The disadvantage with starting seeds now, if you're in a warmer climate with a lot of sun, you have a longer growing period. You know, the seeds take a certain amount of time to germinate. Some takes 80 days, and you know, they're different time. So if you're going to start from seeds, it will be better starting in February, around February or March, February, March, and then you will be starting those seeds indoors. And then by the time the weather starts to go above 50, 60, you're ready to take your plants outdoors. Then you have your little seedlings ready to be transplanted. But if you're going to be growing at this time of the year, it will be easier to start from little plants.
Correct, because they already started this weeks and weeks ago. But I will be starting seeds because it is things I'm going to be doing spinach and things that's going to, you know, go right on into October, season, November, you know, and they won't mind the cold. But I can't possibly start tomatoes because if I start them, they won't be ready for this until 6 weeks from now, and then they won't make fruit before it gets frozen in my area. But yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You ready to take them in the kitchen? Okay. So
I'm going to invite you to join me in the kitchen for a cheese alternative adventure.